will go. Okay. All right. So we can do call and response. All right. Okay. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. 'Cause your people are my people. Your people are mine. 'Cause your people are my people. Your people are mine. 'Cause let's do that again. You don't like the song? Where's the energy?
In silence. Waking up.
Yeah, it was waking up. Okay. We'll do the, because your people again. And put the hands into it. Because your people are my people. Your people are mine. Because your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. So it's two times your people, my people, your people, my people. You're divine. Then the last song line is you're divine, my divine. So it's basically just three, right? Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Right? Because your people are my people. Your people are mine. Because your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. It's beautiful, right? So let's embody it. Okay. Yeah. So, who has who sings? Grace. Where's Grace?
She's.
Oh yeah. Did you learn the words yet? I know, because I can't carry it. Yeah. All right. Oh yeah. Please. Okay. All right. So there you go. Did you hear her? Like that. You're a beautiful voice. I've never heard before. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Yeah. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. 'Cause your people. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. 'Cause your people are my people. Your people are mine. 'Cause your people are my people. Your people are mine. 'Cause your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. Well, by the end of the retreat, we'll have it all down. It's with beautiful words. Do it again? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Will you lead it?
Everybody.
Oh, can we do it all together now?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. There we go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. 'Cause your people are my people.
were in their community. How did everybody sleep last night? Dry? No. I know some people came in here after sleep. Yeah. How's the food for you? Good. Okay, so you get sleep. Food. Talk about shelter. How about
Yeah.
working? Excellent. Because these things keep us happy. The basic requisites, and having those is often enough. There's a lot of people don't have any one of those, but several of them. Yeah. So today in our retreat, we're nourishing the ancestors in us. And so I wanted to share about what one way of doing that might look like. There's several ways of doing that might look like. And we're all in different places in understanding what that means, and that's all great. Right? There is no right way, and we all get to where we need to be when we need to be there. So sometimes it's just nice to think about other ways that friends along the path might be doing that same journey of nourishing our ancestors. And the first ancestor I'd like to nourish is our teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh. Dear Thai, thank you, and all the Vietnamese people, and all the conditions that came together to create a Thai. Yeah. And those weren't just beautiful conditions. And yet out of that, all of those conditions, the beautiful and the not so beautiful conditions, we have produced collectively this wonderful teacher that maybe could only be that kind of teacher because of those conditions. And I think when we think about ancestors and spirit, we tend to forget all the causes and conditions that made them who they were. When you think about ancestors that we look to or ancestors that we feel we want to emanate, they have a pretty challenging path. Right? To get to that place where they could put down the burden. And that's sort of the theme of my sharing today is one way of nourishing the ancestors is for us to put down this burden that we're carrying. And what does that look like? What does that feel like in the body? And what kind of consciousness is that? Putting the burden down. And what's the burden? Anyway. So I want to share a story, my story, a piece of my story, my journey, of what a moment when I put down the burden and what it took to do that. And that oftentimes it feels like it requires these extreme conditions for us to finally lay it all down. So I was driving in upstate New York. This was maybe 8 years ago. And I had to stop to get something out the car. Phone charger. And so it was on a steep hill, so clearly I wasn't thinking. very mindful. But the scenery was beautiful. It was so beautiful, and I was so taken with it. And I wanted to make sure the phone was charged so I could get out the car and take some pictures. So I parked on the hill, just pulled over on the hill, just to go in the back, and it was a rental car. I thought I put the brake on. I still, to this day, I remember putting brake on. But as I got out the car, it started to roll down. It was a pretty steep hill. And I was kind of in that, what people, that kind of woo state a little bit. I was so taken with nature, and maybe too much. And the car started rolling, and so I had one foot in the car still and one foot out. The door was open, and it started to roll. And I thought, oh, I must not have put the brake on. So I reached over, but the brake was on. And then it kept rolling, and everything's happening very quickly, but in the mind it's like very slow. And so, because I'm so strong, and in my mind I am strong, and I am strong, in different ways, but not muscularly. But still, I thought I could, from in front of the car, stop it from rolling down, right? Like what the mind thinks. And so then it just kept going faster. And in a second, I decided, it's okay. It's okay to go now. It's time to let it all go. It's time to put down the burden. That moment was the most freeing moment I have ever experienced in my life. I have never experienced that before and since. It felt like something had lifted off my shoulders. I felt free. I felt nothing. I was carrying nothing. It was amazing. And then I lost consciousness. And in that moment, I knew what it meant to put down the burden, because I knew what it felt like to not have the burden. And sometimes we have to experience what, it's like the toothache and the non-toothache. You forget until you don't have it. So when I didn't have the burden, I felt what that was like. That was so freeing. It's like I could fly. And I think I did. In that moment of loss of consciousness. So I made a decision, right? That it was okay to go. And I made a clear decision that it's been a good life. It's been a hard life, but it's been a good life. And in that moment, I was ready to go. I wasn't clinging to the thing. I actually let go of the car, and I was just going to let it take me. So it's just like really letting physically go, and then mentally, I think the most important thing was that, right? In my mind, I was ready to go. So this is what I can't explain this stuff, you read these things about what happens when you kind of go, but I don't know. But what happened was, I either imagined or dreamed, or it happened that I went into this space where there were like elders, but they were like formless elders, and they kept saying, it's not time yet, you gotta go back. And for those of you who know me, I'm kind of like outspoken. And so I was like, no, I don't want to go back there. That's like serious stuff there. And I really was ready to leave. And it was okay. And they kept saying, no, it's not done. And then I felt physically like I was fighting, and then I felt physically like I was pushed. And then I came back, into consciousness in this world, in this realm, just as my body was hitting the ground, face down. And the only thing that happened was I broke my leg. I mean, I say only because, it's all relative then, I hear things like, but when I came to, the first thing that crossed my mind was, I'm back. And it wasn't, I'm back. It was, I'm back. With regret. Because I felt what it meant to be free, and I knew coming back I would take it all on again. Right? And so, do we have to come to near-death experience to put the burden down? I did. And I still haven't been able to feel that kind of freedom. And so this is our path. Our path is learning what it means to put it down. Because we are carrying, as folks of color, folks of historically legacy marginalized groups with systems that continuously oppress us, we are carrying a burden. And I wish I had the magic word and the thing to do, like turn around 3 times, wiggle your bottom, and say, yay. Or take your clothes off and go run in the water, like whatever it is, you know. But I know we are all here because we want to put the burden down. We want to heal. And my wish for you is that you don't have to come to some near-death experience to put it, to feel what it, to know what it feels like to put it down. But what that experience taught me was there is the possibility of letting it rest. And I'm convinced that it's possible to achieve that without going into the next place yet. I am convinced. And all these practices, all these healing that we do, all the different ways, and every one of them are beautiful, and everyone fits us in different ways, and everyone resonates with us in the wavelength where we were at. And maybe next year it'll be a different one. But this is why we're here, to discover and rediscover what it means to be free. Yeah, what it means to let that breath out and let all the burden down. Because the biggest gift that we can offer ancestor and all the ancestor is that freedom. Because we are the ancestors. They are in us. There is no separation. There is no birth and death. There is no coming and going. There is no being and non-being. And so if we believe that, then we know that the nourishing of the ancestors is really the freeing and the nourishing of the ancestor in us. And so this is our project. So I'm going to shift this a little bit and talk about decoloniality. Because that's part of it, right? That's part of it. Because it has a name, we name it. We name it and we label things, and we don't want to get stuck in the labels and stuck in the labels. But the labels help us navigate. Yeah? So I'm going to write down this word, and then I'm going to invite us to talk about for us what that means. Thank you. So, decoloniality, putting down the burden, and the three Dharma seals. What they got to do with each other. So before we get into that, I want to share that we are at a very chaotic time in society. And what chaos means is it's difficult, but also there's opportunity to reform and recreate, to regenerate, right? To reestablish, to rename. And we are there in the Dharma. So it's not like the Dharma and our spiritual communities are kept protected or separate from the changes that are around us. We don't leave the world outside when we come into spaces like this. It's with us. And we can't leave it because the ancestors keep telling us to heal. Yeah. And so the chaos and the change and the opportunity for beginning anew again and again is also in the midst of our spiritual development and our spiritual selves and our healing. And so I want to say this sort of almost like a disclaimer, is that we are bringing different traditions into Buddhism. Somebody did the wobble yesterday. Right? Diane's leading us in voicing and expansiveness in a way that maybe that's the way we're going to unload and heal. Kenyatta's leading us in how to take care of grief and how to celebrate it and not run away from it. We're re-indigenizing everything. Yeah, and it doesn't mean that it stops at the Dharma door when we bow to each other. It means we may bow and we might do a little jiggle. You get me? And we don't lose Buddhism because we dance. And we don't lose Buddhism because we sing. One of the beautiful things about our tradition of Plum Village is that Kai says, even though I said at the beginning that, oh, those non-PV people are bringing it, it's a joke, right? Because the idea is you don't have to become Buddhist to practice with the teachings and the wisdom of Buddhism. Nobody owns it. Yeah? Nobody owns it. And so as we indigenize and we bring our full selves into some of the spaces where historically maybe they weren't so welcome, or maybe they were just ignorance of it. It's okay. It doesn't mean we're minimizing the beautiful, deep roots of Buddhism and where it came from in South Asia. It means we're celebrating that and we're bringing in all of who we are. Yeah. So just remember that. Because change is radical. Healing is radical. The colonial project wasn't meant for us to be healed. It was meant for us to be sick. So that it can continue its exploitation of our bodies and minds. So just let that sink in. Let that sink in. And let that go really deep. Because as a person who has historically been a radical, I've also historically been a spiritual being. And they were never separate. And so I feel Spirit has always been saying, yeah, for me to live in you, you need to really be in places that help you really divine yourself. And divinity may look different for all of us. But what divinity is truth. and understanding. Non-separation, interbeing. Yeah, the circle. And we're going to talk about how the circle is really all of that. Because if you drew a circle, it's all of that. So maybe we can go around the room and some folks can offer for your own self what decoloniality means for you.
Walking into different spaces and not feeling fear, taking away that fear.
Not feeling fear. Yeah, thank you. Did you, let me repeat. Walking into certain spaces, tell me if I misheard you,
No, it's okay.
and not feeling fear. Yeah. Someone else?
Having a sense of self-worth, self-value that is not based on the values of the colonizers, the colonizer culture.
So I heard non-fear, self-worth. I'm shortening stuff. Non-fear, self-worth. Maybe one more.
I have a mindful and vigilant resistance.
Mindful and vigilant resistance.
Yeah, because things come at me. Occasions will arise when someone says or does something toward me, and I'm like, no, why don't you take care of that? I'm not that person for you. Why don't you take care of that? Yeah.
This is great.
I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Undoing internalized violence.
Uh-huh.
For example, the language in touching the earth practice didn't really sit well with me.
Undoing internalized violence.
Putting a circular way of life in a box.
Yes. Okay.
Owning my body and experience.
Say that again.
Owning,
Owning.
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 O, nope. O-W.
Holding. Oh,
No.
thank you.
Own.
Owning. 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 Oh, I like this. It's got a little- Holding.
Ownership.
Ownership. Owning. Okay.
Body.
Body.
Experience.
Body experience. Yes. Okay. Excellent.
One more.
Sorry?
Can I just add one more?
Okay. I'm sorry.
Can I just add one more?
Oh, yes, please. Last one.
I would say ending horizontal violence. So what I mean by is like violence against like other BIPOCs and people of color.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because we carry out the masters. horizontal. All right, thank you. It's great. It's nothing like crowdsourcing. It's like Sangha wisdom. Yeah. So this word is a newer word, right? 10 years. It's coming out of movements in Africa and South America that labels what's been happening for decades, right? And that's how it goes, right? Like as you get older, you see that things come up. So like in the early 1990s, doing work with people like Margot Okazawa Ray, who's a Afro-Japanese female-bodied person, teaching about anti-racism and anti-oppression, who was a member of the Kambahi initiative. So so they were already doing decoloniality, just didn't have that name yet, right? An initiative that was welcoming feminist female perspective and LGBTQIA trans perspective, but we weren't as much using those words trans yet, right? Marsha, yeah, right? Already, Sylvia Rivera already, right? Back in the 60s, movement for trans liberation, that now is up, yeah. So there's nothing new, y'all. There's just different connections to ancestors and cosmic wisdom that when we resonate in a certain frequency collectively, we receive it, and so then we live it, and we bring it into our mundane being, the vertical that Diane is talking about. We're always in the horizontal. But when we open up and we receive from ancestors' wisdom, we rebuild our circle. Yeah. So it's not new, it's just we are now the ones that must take care of it, take it up, and get free. Because our ancestors are depending on us. There's no separation, right? So this is great. This idea of decoloniality, I think the new piece that it brings forward is decolonization being the removal of the geography that kind of had defined colonization, right? We think of it as people going to certain lands, exploiting the resources and taking the land. Well, decoloniality is looking at what that left inside of us and how we continue the systems, the internalized ways we've taken up that we used to say in the 90s, homie can go home because we're doing the work for them. And do you know what that means? That the master doesn't even have to be in the home because we're going to carry it out. So decolonization is that part. It's taking it to the next level. It's the Dharma. It's the internalized way of renewing ourselves. It's the healing. It's the way that brings us forth in a different way so that we can name and see, as Mary said, no, I'm not here to do that anymore. But to get to that requires this healing inside of all the stuff that we are burdened with, all the things that we're carrying, all the ways that we had to survive that was legit, and now we're in a different place, so. Every one of you are here because you're on the path. You could be doing 100 other things right now, Because time is a clicking, time is money. And that's what we have been internalizing. And yet, the healing in you has revealed to you that that is not so. And you have liberated yourself by being here. Just like that. So you see, it's not magic. It's not science. It's wisdom. And it's already all up in here. All up there in you. Because you found your way here. You know you must heal. You know it. I don't have to sit here and tell you that. So what do we do together? We come together and we come into a space where other people are also waking up. So in these spaces we can fill up with that energy. And we dance, and we breathe and sigh it out over and over again, and we let our voice make sound that maybe we couldn't make before, and make our body do things that it needs to undulate in order to create that path of release for that trauma that's stuck somewhere in that little crevice between the hip joint or the toe joint. Yeah. And we move our bodies in a way unknowingly because the body, the embodied part, the body is saying, I need this for it to move out of me. And so dance is ritual and healing. And when we can sink into it, we are letting our bodies say, this is what I need right now. Can you not think it through? Can you not cognize it? Can you be in wisdom with me? And so we come together and we find the space and we fill up so that when we go back out, we have the ability to resist. Yeah. We have the ability to notice, to be wise, and how we're going to be in the world. Is it going to be continuing to take in the same things? Or is it going to be a stopping and deciding, a pausing? We pause. And in that moment of pause and that mindful breath, we become observers of ourselves, and then we choose. So we bring ourselves out of head in the sand, sleepwalking, to waking up, being in choice. And in that moment is when we make different choices. And sometimes it might feel too radical. Sometimes our family look at us and ask, what is wrong? And it's painful, right? It's really painful. And yet there's a way that we know this is our healing. And maybe we get to a point where we even invite them in to the journey with us, the healing journey. We don't force it, we don't push them, we simply continue to heal. Because the power of healing is immense. It emanates out. People wonder why you're, how come you're not bothered? Why are you so still? And they want some of that. And so that's how we teach. We teach by our way of being. So everybody wants to be free. Some people just don't know it yet. But you know it. And that means you're a teacher. For all those who haven't woken up to freedom, that there is freedom. Those who haven't woken up that they're still in shackles. So we're all teachers here, every single one of us. Right? It is our duty. That's right. We got nothing to lose but our chains. Nothing to lose but our chains. And even to know that we're in chains, that's waking up already. And so you're here because you're unshackling. And trauma and shackles are comfortable. Yeah. It's the default path. It's the path of least resistance. And so it's a hill, but then it goes down and then we enjoy a little bit. And then it's a hill, like that, waves, right? The water. Yeah. And so what do we do to nourish ourselves so we can, when we're on that hill and it's steep, we remember that the wave does crest, it ebbs and flows. Yeah. How do we resource ourselves? We come to retreats. We meet with other like-minded people and we practice. Sometimes you just gotta go to a good protest and shout. Just like that. Or go to a city council meeting and right? Share. But we share from a place of non-anger. Right? Anger might get us there. But the practice allows us to see, hey, I'm angry right now. Now, am I going to act in the same way of violence toward this person even though they are violating me and my folk? Or am I going to share in a way that I continue my freedom? Because we can't let people keep shackling us. That's what happens when we go and we act a fool. Is we're like saying, I just let you control me. You just took my freedom away and made me your prisoner. And since this is a path of liberation, we can't do that. And so how do we stay in that spaciousness? Well, that's why we practice. Yeah. So we don't just practice when everything is like cool and all the conditions are sufficient. You know, like sitting here this morning in the rain, meditating, I was like, wow. I was like, this is it. I'm not going back. Then the bell. And we need that too, right? So that's that places of putting it down, the small places of putting it down and refreshing so that we can come back. And when we leave here, leave with intention. Like, how are you going to nourish the ancestors in you? Will you have an altar at home? Yeah. Will you have a bowl of water and lay it down? Because we really got to lay it down. So much we carry. Yeah. Because nothing that happens to me doesn't happen to you. And I know what I'm carrying. So I know what you're carrying. I don't know exactly what you're carrying, but I know what you're carrying. And so this is a collective, right? Your people are my people. Your divine, my divine. It's real. So we've talked about decoloniality and putting down the burden. I'm going to ask everybody to close their eyes. And I'm going to ask you to take a breath in. And let it go out through your toes, to the crown of your head. Feel filled with this energy of kindness, of tenderness for self, of compassion. And breathe out the burden. Just one. And as you breathe it out, see if you can notice where in your body that was, or is. And then, with eyes still closed, just say out loud that burden. No one's going to know you. That one thing you want to unburden right now. And let the elements take it, transform it. The earth, the water, the wind, the fire, also our ancestors. You can go ahead and open your eyes. Because remember, the body is made of the 4 elements, right? And so, anything in us, whether it's formed or not, is the elements. And so when we inviting the earth element into us, it's as if we're inviting in the earth element to refresh the earth element in us from outside. And the wind and the water and the fire, the heat. And in that moment comes transformation, just like that. And that gets into the 3 Dharma seals. Right? So the 3 Dharma seals, someone offer them, please. And y'all, I'm talking to this thing.
Didn't want to interrupt.
You want to interrupt? Thanks.
In your pocket.
Love y'all. Y'all, look at her, she's talking to me. Old school.
In your pocket.
A pocket, yes.
Because it.
Okay. Thank you for letting me know. Y'all got me. The 3 Dharma seals.
Non-self, impermanence, and aimlessness.
Ooh,
Okay. So
aimlessness could be seen as nirvana too,
non-
so, yeah.
Non-self, impermanence.
I said it, yeah.
Nirvana.
There you go. Yeah. Impermanence, non-self, nirvana. Yeah. So in the Mahayana tradition, we call it the 3 Dharma seals. Sort of like seals, it's the seal that's on everything, right? On everything, every aspect of life. In the Vipassana tradition, it's the 3 marks of existence, or the 3 characteristics: impermanence, non-self, and dukkha. suffering. But because there's no coming and going and no birth and death, the dukkha and the nirvana are right there. At least that's how I'm like, yeah, we're gonna do the thing together. So impermanence, right? Everything's always changing. Nothing has a solid self. Which that understanding leads us right into non-self, right? There is no solid self. It changes because it's not solid, there's not one entity. So it's empty, it's not empty of anything, it's empty of being a separate thing. Yeah? Which means that it's made up of many things. Yeah? The interbeing nature of all things, the circle. Yeah? And that understanding leads us into this, like there is no coming and going, there is no increasing, decreasing. Yeah? So they build on each other beautifully. And then they go back and forth like that. It's all a circle, yeah? It's all a circle. And that understanding, it's like that, right? Someone said non-fear. So we fear so much. And why do we fear? We fear because we live in a status quo that says we have to be a certain way, that we're worthless unless we're A, B, C, D, F, G, H, I, right? We even have power structures, right? Delineate, know your place. You know, I remember growing up, my grandma would also say, know your place, child. And it's real, right? It's in me. It's in me. So it gives you a sense of your worth. If I have to know my place, it means I am relative to someone else. My worth is relative to you. Yeah. So the fear of not having worth, right? That leads us to, I continuously have to remember and renew and breathe it out. Yeah. Yeah. Putting it down. That's the burden to be put down. All that fear of not measuring up. Somebody walks down the street, looks at us funny, and we think that that's aimed at us. Got nothing to do with it. They don't even see us. They're still thinking about childcare or the bus they missed or their rent or something. So they don't have the spaciousness for us. That's part of the non-connection that we live in every day. And so how do we develop this sense of resistance, resilience? I don't like that word so much, but I like resistance better. Because there's so much to resist, right? Tai says we have to resist the status quo, because the status quo is what keeps us in these chains. You didn't say chains, I'm saying chains. Right? But we're talking about that. Because taking on this path of freedom, liberating ourselves, being kind to ourselves, hey, that's liberatory, y'all. Loving ourselves, when society tells us because of the color of our skin or the texture of our hair or who we love or the country we were born in or the ability of our bodies to do certain things, that unless we meet those things that we're not lovable, it's all part of putting down and coming back into the circle, putting it down, putting it down. And when we put it down, and we keep putting it down, that circle grows. And it goes from a little circle. So think of it as a lot of little circles that somehow will grow into this big circle. So we put down one burden, and we go through, and we realize the impermanent nature, we realize the non-coming, the non-going, the no saying, the no different. And then we do another one, like this. So the box is what we live in right now. In my little notepad here, I drew the box. corners. I know you can see this. But we have to get in the corners what the elements are, because what gets stuck in the corners is what keeps us in the box. Stops the flow, gets stuck, it's not seen. The fear grows, the tension in the hip, the heart gets big, gets hardened. I put a rock in the water, because sometimes that's what I feel, I'm carrying a rock. And how do we open it? How do we break it open? Yeah, and so we keep building circles, so that eventually we circle our way out of that box. That's the coloniality, the box. And the decoloniality, that's the freedom. I know we're a little behind, but can we sing that song again? Yeah. All right. Remember it?
Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. 'Cause your people are my people. Your people are mine. 'Cause your people are my people. You're divine, my divine.
Some rhythm?
Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. 'Cause your people are my people. Your people are mine. 'Cause your people are my people. You're divine, my divine.
Amio.
Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. 'Cause your people are my people. Your people are mine. 'Cause your people are my people. You're divine, my divine.
Bamio, bamio.
Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go.